that's the opening riff for Yellow by Coldplay. So I'll kind of walk you through how you do this. So the first thing that we'll start with is we're gonna go through the main chords of this portion where it goes. This part. So this is really so this is the fingerings I'm going to show you are for when the whole song is transposed into the key of C. So if the chords that you're playing the whole song for Coldplay are C, and then G, and then F, then you do have the transposition of the song that's in C. So, you know, normally the song is like goes. And each of these chords in the opening riff is actually built around, it's built around this progression of chords from C to G to F. So the first thing to think about for the first chord is think of playing a C. So if you're playing a C, all you're going to do is you're just going to put an extra finger down on the 3rd fret of your E string. So now you have open, open, 3, 3. And then what you're going to do is you're going to do a progression from that. You're going to let go of your 3rd finger on the E strings and only have your 1st finger on the E string. So you're going to go. For the riff. So that's how you get. That's that part. And then the second piece, you're going to finger a G. So it's going to be 2nd fret on the C string, 3rd fret on the E string, and 2nd fret on the A string. And then what you're going to do is you're going to lift your middle finger, which is on the 2nd fret of the A string, off. So it's just an open there. So that's how you're going to get the second part of the riff. So that's that progression. And the third piece you're going to do, you're going to finger a D minor, which is going to be a 2nd fret on the G string, 2nd fret on the C string, and 1st fret on your E string, and then open on the A string. So that's what that sounds like. And then what you're going to do is you're going to lift your ring finger, which is on the 2nd fret of the C string, and you're just going to lift it off. So now really all your fingering is in F. So that's how you get the 3rd part of the riff that goes. And you can see that each part is really built around a corresponding chord. So the first progression that you played, it's kind of built around this C chord. You're just adding a couple extra fingers. And then the second one is built around the G chord. You start with a G, and then you just lifted your middle finger on the A string, and then the third kind of progression is around the F chords. So you're doing a D minor, and now you're lifting it to get an F. So that's kind of how that fits into the chord progression of the song. So now the next thing, so if you put it all together, you should have something that sounds sort of like this. To the first one, which is the around the C. So again, that's open, open, and then you're going to do 3rd fret on the E string and 3rd fret on the A string. And then all you have to do is just lift up your 1st finger, and now you just have your, I'm using my pinky to play the C string, or the C chord, and you can now start your song. So so there's a couple of extra things that you can do to make this whole riff a little bit more interesting, if you want. One is to add accents. So instead of playing straight, just sort of like, what I like to do is I like to add accents on 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So when I play it faster, it sounds like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So I'm just playing those a little bit louder. It's the 1, 1 and 2 and, so the and of the 2 and 3 and 4. So it's 1, the and of the 2 and 4. So the way that sounds is and so if you play the whole progression like that, now it sounds like. The second thing you can do is you can, for the 1st chord, which is the 3rd fret on the E string and the 3rd fret on the A string, you can, if you listen to sort of like the kind of the main melody of the original song, really the thing that you're trying to pull out is this G to, this is a G and this is an F. You're trying to pull out this transition and make it really, really obvious. One way that you can do this is by removing all the notes that are higher. So in this case, the note that you're playing that is higher and potentially distracting is this C on the A string. So what we've been doing so far is playing this, but you can just lift your pinky just a little bit, so that instead of pushing down on the fret, you're actually just resting it on the string, which is going to just mute it. And then if you still have the 3rd fret on the E string pushed down, now it sounds like this. Before, it sounded like this. Now it sounds like this. So the reason you might want to do that is that it's going to make that, it's going to, by removing the distraction of the higher note, now this transition is going to become a lot more obvious. So it's, before, it sounded like this. And now it's going to sound like this. So it's just like, it makes this just a little bit more obvious. So that's one thing you can change. So if we play the whole progression with that change, now it sounds like this. The last thing that you can do to change the sound of this riff just a little bit is you can use what are called pull-offs. So what that basically does is it sort of makes the transition between 2 notes sound very smooth. Sometimes this is called legato in music, or you might see something called a slur, like in written music, and that's what that is. So what this means is that for example, in the 1st chord, in the 1st progression, instead of just kind of lifting our finger and then which is what we've been doing so far, so that's what we've been doing. You're actually going to, when you have your third fret down on the E string, you're actually just going to pull your finger, I'm using my ring finger, off of the string. And the way it's going to look is like this. You're kind of pulling it down this way. And just by doing that, the string is going to pop up and play a little note. And what that allows you to do is to get this sort of slurred effect from the G to the F. So it's going to sound like this. I'll go slow so it sounds. So let me do it again. And the way this would sound for the second part of the progression is you're gonna pull your middle finger, instead of just lifting it, which is what we've been doing so far, you're gonna pull it off of the fretboard so that the string just sort of pops up underneath your finger when you've sort of removed the pressure from the string. So that'll sound like. And doing this change makes things a little bit tricky because it means that you also can't strum while you're doing this pull off. So what's going to happen is you're going to go like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, pull off while you move this hand up, but don't strum. So you're going to miss with your right hand. Let me do that one more time. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and down strum, pull off, and I at the same time moved my right hand up but didn't strum the strings. And now I'll keep strumming for the rest of it. I'll do it one more time. So I'll do it one more time. So even though my right hand looks like it's still going, there's one beat where I'm purposefully not hitting the strings on the up strum. I'm just missing the strings. So you're going to do that for all of them. So it'll sound like this for the first one. The second one will be. And I find that it just makes it like the tiniest bit more texturally interesting to do that, I think. So it doesn't, it's just a little bit more interesting than like straight strums the whole way. And then for the third one, it'll sound like. So again, what I'm doing is same thing, pull off, just using my ring finger and pulling it off of the string. You don't have to pluck it, you don't need to pull the string away from the fretboard, you just simply, just move your finger off the string and let it pop up in your finger's absence. So if you do all of this together, what it now sounds like is this. So it sounds like so there's that whole part of the riff. And then the opening, there's like 2 bars that are before this kind of iconic opening riff, which the way that I play this is, I do on a C, so the way I play it is like. So all I'm doing there is I'm just fingering a C, and really most of the strum is on the C. And then I'm putting my index finger on the first fret of the E string while also holding down the C. So it's gonna. So that's the progression there. the rhythm that I'm doing, it's actually a variant of the accented rhythm that I was doing on the sort of the big iconic riff, where I'm going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So it's the same 1, 2 and, so the and of 2, and then 3, 4. So it's that same beat on that we were accenting before. I'm now just doing it for the strums. And then, let's see, how am I adding in the I'm going. Okay, so that's sort of the next step, is if I just threw the F in kind of like right at the end. So it's like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And then I think I'm doing is, so I'm doing a little bit, I'm sort of breaking my rhythm there and doing a little bit of a faster strum just for a little bit. Is how it goes. Maybe at some point I'll try to figure out exactly what rhythm I'm playing to do there, but for now I'll just play it a couple of times, and I know that some people will be able to pick it up by ear, so. And you're just going to the riff. So there you go. That's my walkthrough of what I figured out of that riff so far. I definitely find it really fun to play. So you can give it a shot, or just let me know if you have questions. This is me just trying to explain what it is that I'm playing around with. All right.